Picture a car from 1956 that already had a backup camera beaming a live feed to a screen on the dashboard instead of a rearview mirror. That technology took almost 35 years to show up on a mass production car. And that's just one of the 8 insane cars you're about to see today. From 1949 to 1961, General Motors ran a free traveling show called the Motorama, touring through major American cities. The man behind all of it was Harley Earl, GM's vice president of design, and he had a new weapon in his arsenal: fiberglass, light, easy to shape, and free from the limits of steel. The result was 8 cars that never went on sale. Most got crushed the moment the tour ended, yet they shaped GM's design language for the next 3 decades. Some ran on jet engines, some had collision warning radar, some had seats that slid out on their own every time you opened the door. Every single one of them came out of a design studio in Detroit, where the only real limit was imagination. 1951, GM Le Sabre. The Le Sabre debuted in 1951, and to understand it, you need to know what was on Harley Earl's mind at the time: the F86 Sabre fighter jet. The entire shape of the car, from the pointed nose to the tail fins flaring up at the rear, echoed the lines of that fighter plane. The body was built from aluminum and magnesium, light enough that GM's own engineers weren't used to working at that scale yet. Under the hood sat a supercharged 215 cubic inch aluminum V8, putting out 335 horsepower at 5,200 revolutions per minute and 381 pound-feet of torque at a time when Cadillac's most powerful V8 was sitting around 160 horsepower. The Le Sabre also ran a dual-fuel setup capable of running on both gasoline and methanol with 2 separate tanks, because Earl wanted to test performance on both. A powerful engine makes sense on a show car, but the smaller details are what really stop you in your tracks. The Le Sabre had hydraulic jacks built right into the body so you could change a tire without a jack handle, heated seats, headlight covers that opened electrically, and a rain sensor that automatically raised the convertible top if it started raining while the car sat alone. Heated seats and rain sensors in 1951 were features most cars wouldn't get as common options until almost the year 2000. What set the Le Sabre apart from most dream cars is that Earl didn't just show it off and lock it away. He actually drove it every day for over 2 years, putting more than 45,000 miles on it like a daily commuter. The Le Sabre also left behind an important design legacy. The wraparound windshield it pioneered later showed up on the 1953 Cadillac Eldorado and the Oldsmobile Fiesta. 2. 1954 Firebird I. Unveiled in 1954, the Firebird I was the first gas turbine car ever built and tested in the United States. A single seat, a clear bubble canopy, a fiberglass body shaped after the Douglas Skyray fighter jet, and a vertical tail fin sticking up behind it like a miniature fighter plane riding on 4 wheels. At its core was the Whirlfire engine, producing 370 horsepower at 13,000 revolutions per minute on the power turbine, while the front compressor turbine spun up to 26,000 revolutions per minute. Exhaust gases left the car at 1,250 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt plenty of ordinary metals. GM estimated a top speed north of 200 miles per hour, a number that to this day remains purely theoretical, since the car was only ever tested up to around 100 miles per hour in real conditions. The brakes matched that aviation mindset perfectly. The drums sat on the outside of the wheels for faster cooling, while aircraft-style flaps could pop up to create drag and help slow the car down at high speed. This car was dangerous enough that only one engineer, Emmett Conklin, was initially cleared to drive it. During one test run, when he shifted into second gear, the turbine's massive torque caused the rear wheels to completely lose traction, and Conklin had to back off immediately to keep from losing control. The Firebird I was only the first chapter in a 3-generation turbine program, Firebird I, II, and III, completely unrelated to the later Pontiac Firebird muscle car, even though both wore the GM badge. 3. 1954 Pontiac Bonneville Special. In 1954, Harley Earl traveled to the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah to watch land speed record runs. He came back to Detroit with an idea and handed it to Pontiac, a brand that had never come close to anything sporty before. The result was the Bonneville Special, Pontiac's first ever two-seat sports car. Under the hood was a 268 cubic inch inline 8, tuned with 4 two-barrel carburetors, a high compression head, and a performance camshaft, producing 230 horsepower through a 4-speed hydromatic automatic transmission. The body was fiberglass, built on a chassis based on the 1953 Corvette, the same platform underpinning Chevrolet's brand-new sports car that year. The look is what really stops people in their tracks. A plexiglass canopy covers the entire cabin with gull-wing doors that swing up like wings. Out back, a Continental kit shaped like a jet exhaust turns the entire rear end into a statement about speed. Pontiac built exactly 2 of these, one in bronze, one in green, so they could be displayed at 2 different shows at the same time, one in Los Angeles and one in Detroit. Both cars survive to this day, a rare outcome for Motorama dream cars, which were usually destroyed once the tour wrapped up. One of the 2 was later sold at Barrett-Jackson, with under 800 miles on the odometer, practically untouched since it left the factory. The Bonneville name went on to become Pontiac's full-size performance line starting in 1957, and it stuck around continuously for 47 years, making it one of the longest-running nameplates in American automotive history. 4. 1953 to 1954, Oldsmobile F88. Between 1952 and 1953, Oldsmobile was quietly working on its own answer to the Corvette. That car was the F88, a 2-seat roadster with a fiberglass body sitting on an early Corvette chassis. The engine was a tuned version of the Rocket V8 pulled from the 1954 Oldsmobile Super 88, putting out around 250 horsepower, paired with a 4-speed hydromatic automatic and a Corvette rear axle. When the 1955 Corvette switched to a 225 horsepower V8, Earl ordered a second F88 built with a supercharged engine, pushing output to 370 horsepower. The design came out of the Oldsmobile studio under Art Ross, the same man who had designed Cadillac's legendary grille back in 1941. Bill Mitchell, Ken Pickering, and a name every Corvette fan knows, Zora Arkus Duntov, all worked on the project. The second F88 stood just 53.1 inches tall, with a removable fiberglass top similar to the later 1956 Corvette. The F88 never made it to a showroom. Chevrolet, GM's biggest sales contributor by far, worried that a sporty Oldsmobile would compete directly with the Corvette, and convinced the board to kill the whole project. Only one F88 survives today. In 2005, it sold at Barrett-Jackson for $3.24 million, a number that makes a lot of people stop and wonder what Oldsmobile lost by letting this project die before it ever got started. 5. 1956, Buick Centurion. This is the car from the opening, the Buick Centurion that debuted at the 1956 Motorama alongside the Pontiac Club de Mer. Its backup camera was a real working device built by University Broadcasting System, weighing around 6 pounds, mounted in the rear and feeding a small screen on the dashboard in place of a traditional rearview mirror. The body was fiberglass, and the Centurion's bubble canopy was the largest fully transparent roof ever built at the time, wrapping around the entire cabin like a fighter jet cockpit. Inside, the steering wheel was mounted cantilever style, dead center on the dashboard, exactly like the layout of an aircraft cockpit. Under the hood sat a 325 horsepower V8. The Centurion's front seat slid back automatically every time the doors opened, making it easier to get in and out. And this is considered one of the earliest steps toward bucket seats, which would later become standard across American cars. The rear featured a wing fender design, fin-like shapes running along the body, and those lines directly influenced the tail designs of the 1959 Chevrolet and Buick 3 years later. The Centurion is now held by the Sloan Museum, and the backup camera it carried was 35 years ahead of its time, long before that technology became standard on cars. 6. 1956 Pontiac Club de Mer. Also at the 1956 Motorama, standing next to the Centurion and the Oldsmobile Golden Rocket, was a small, low, metallic blue roadster that GM Design called a rolling design laboratory. That was the Pontiac Club de Mer, designed by Paul Gillian. The body was brushed aluminum, and the entire car stood just about 38 inches tall, lower than even the Corvette of that era. Under the hood was a Stratostreak V8, roughly 287 cubic inches, producing 300 horsepower and 330 pound-feet of torque through dual 4-barrel carburetors. The drivetrain used a rear transaxle paired with independent rear suspension, a layout almost no American automaker was using at the time. Up front, 2 parallel chrome silver streak strips ran down the hood, the first time Pontiac had ever used 2 parallel streaks on one car. The nose could rotate a full 180 degrees to reveal hidden headlights underneath. Out back, a single massive tail fin rose up like a shark's fin, while the cabin was wrapped in vermilion red leather with twin plexiglass cafe racer windscreens shielding the driver and passenger. The Club de Mer toured 5 cities in 1956, drawing roughly 2.2 million visitors, a record year for the Motorama. By late 1958, the original car was destroyed. Even so, Harley Earl held on to a quarter-scale model of the Club de Mer, motorized it, and turned it into a pedal car for his grandson, a kid named Tiger. In the 2000s, a restoration team built a full-size replica on a 1959 Pontiac chassis, recreating the original shape almost exactly, starting from a child's toy. 7. 1959 Cadillac Cyclone. In 1959, Harley Earl was getting ready to retire after more than 3 decades running GM's design department, and his last dream car was the Cadillac Cyclone, unveiled at Daytona Speedway. The Cyclone was based on a shortened 1959 Cadillac Series 62 chassis, cut down to a 104-inch wheelbase. A 390 cubic inch V8 producing 325 horsepower sat up front, while a Hydra-matic transmission paired with a 2-speed differential sat in the rear, giving it 6 forward speeds total. It also used Saginaw rotary valve power steering, the first time that system had appeared on a GM car. The front end carried 2 pointed cones known as Dagmars, and each one hid a radar unit. The radar scanned the road ahead, measured distance and stopping distance, and warned the driver with both a sound and a light if it detected an obstacle. The same basic idea behind the collision warning systems on modern cars, just 60 years early. The Cyclone's plexiglass canopy could automatically rise when a sensor detected rain, and when not in use, it folded away and tucked under the rear trunk lid. The door slid outward 3 inches on ball bearings before opening, the kind of mechanical precision very few show cars of that era could pull off. After Earl retired, Bill Mitchell took over and reworked the Cyclone's design, shortening the fins, removing the canopy, and changing the paint from pearl white to silver. That revised version became known as the 1964 Cadillac Cyclone. 8. 1953 Buick Wildcat I. In 1953, at the very same Motorama where the Corvette and the Firebird I made their debuts, Buick showed up with the Wildcat I, one of the brand's first fiberglass cars, built mainly to test out the new material. The engine was a 322 cubic inch Fireball V8, producing 188 horsepower at 4,000 revolutions per minute, paired with a 3-speed Dynaflow automatic. The Wildcat I stretched 218.7 inches long on a 123-inch wheelbase and measured 78 inches wide, a low, long 2-seat roadster in classic dream car proportions. A concave grille with the Wildcat emblem at its center, combined with buffer bombs built into a massive wraparound front bumper, gave the car its signature face. The front wheels wore rotostatic hubcaps with centers that stayed stationary while the wheels spun, doubling as cooling discs that fed a constant stream of air to the front brakes. Twin hood scoops fed extra air to the carburetor. The doors opened with push buttons, while the windows and seats ran on hydraulics. The top folded hydraulically, too, disappearing completely under a rear panel, with no need for a boot like a normal convertible. In back, a row of 15 vertical slats decorated the fenders. Dual exhausts ran straight through the tail, and the taillights wrapped over the top of the rear fenders. Buick called the Wildcat I an experimental car in its own materials that year, but by 1954, that same concave grille and wraparound front bumper showed up on Buick's mass production lineup. Joseph Bortz added this car to his collection in the mid-1980s, after it narrowly avoided getting crushed like most dream cars of its era. The Wildcat I is now on display at the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles. All 8 of these cars came out between 1951 and 1959, right at the peak of Harley Earl's power at GM. Most were destroyed the moment the Motorama tour ended, and only a handful survived thanks to collectors like Joseph Bortz, who spent the 1980s digging through junkyards around Detroit to track them down. These days, automakers rarely build dream cars like this anymore. Most modern concept cars are basically previews of upcoming production models, not the kind of pure design experiments these 8 cars represented. So out of all 8, which one do you think was the craziest? The Firebird one with its real jet engine, or the Cadillac Cyclone with collision warning radar all the way back in 1959? Drop a comment and let me know, and if you enjoyed this one, hit like and subscribe for more classic American car stories.